Help us level the playing field. Sign the parliamentary petition today to fuel the growth and fund the game.
The whole thing is
Well, it's a wet and wild afternoon as round 8 of the Senol NPLW Victoria competition continues this afternoon at Lakeside Stadium. And a big game we have in the offing is South Melbourne back at their home here at Lakeside, play host to the high-flying Alamein, two teams who featured in midweek football, both picking up very impressive wins for different reasons. South Melbourne here at Lakeside for the first time this year, getting the better of the high-flying Burundara on Wednesday night. And the night before it was Alamein who really put the sword to Melbourne City, a 4-0 win down at Casey Field. So two teams coming into this game in a good mood and looking very much to further their ambitions in the NPLW Victoria competition this season. My name is Oscar Rutherford, here to talk you through this afternoon's game, and it is my great pleasure, of course, to be joined by one of the most knowledgeable people involved in NPLW Victoria, Sven Samuel. Sven, it's a cracking game we've got in store this afternoon. South Melbourne, Alamein. I mean, what have you made of the two teams so far this season?
Listen, thanks very much, Oscar, for the introduction. I'm looking forward to this game because South Melbourne, I think there's pressure on them because I think they're a fantastic squad. And they're looking to make changes at the window, so there's pressure on these players, pressure on the coaching staff. But it was a much-needed win for them after having a bit of a sort of trip up there out at Spring Hills the Friday before. Alamein coming to nearly a perfect pitch here to play on, different from Dorothy Laver, and it'll be just quite interesting to see how they go. I'm really looking forward to seeing Summer Lasky playing on a great pitch because her game versus Preston was, I think, one of the better games of the season, and she and Sloane Young from Melbourne have been just tearing the competition up. So I look forward to the game, and I think both teams need the win, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. The conditions, there's a bit of water on the pitch, so it makes the pitch nice and quick, but the wind is blowing left to right.
And well, it's Alamein who started brightly in this one, quickly getting the ball forward and having themselves the first corner of the game. Nev Dustin, as ever, taking responsibility for the delivery as the visitors look to make an early statement in this game. It's a low delivery, and Dustin will get another crack at it as it's sent clear by Bella Wallhead. As mentioned, both teams picking up wins in midweek, and two happy coaches with unchanged 11s named by both teams. We'll run through the full list of names in just a moment, but first Dustin with the second attempt. This one's got more depth on it. Saw it held up a bit in the wind. Estelle Burgess on the edge of the area takes a couple of shots. Still Burgess fires towards goal, and South Melbourne do just about enough to send it clear. Alamein wasting no time, putting their hosts under a little bit of pressure. Here's Savannah Anastasopoulos, met by TJ Vlanich. And Michaela Schmelzer sending it upfield. First prospect of a foray forward as Alexis Pantazopoulos steps into the opposition half, but well blocked off by Jess Shilton. So for South Melbourne, in goal is Gio Candy. Number 2 is Bella Wallhead. 6 is Eva Gutsmith. Number 9, Grace Taranto. 10, Raquel Doralis. 14, Misha Westland. 19, TJ Vlanich. 20, Alexis Pantazopoulos. 22, Michaela Schmelzer. 23, Emily Roach. And 24 is Emily Collier. Whilst for Alamein in the starting 11, we were talking about it pre-game, Sven. It's a wonderful occasion to be a commentator because Alamein naming the full numbers 1 to 11 for the second consecutive game. Number 1 in goal is Olivia Cowan. Number 2, Estelle Burgess. Number 3, Chinatsu Shidara. 4, Analia Kopoulos. 5, Jess Shilton. 6, Dakota Tyson. 7, Savannah Anastasopoulos. 8, Nev Dustin. 9, Summer Lasky. 10, Emma Runnels. And 11 is Zoe Houghton.
Interesting that first corner to see Coach Justin Micallef for South Melbourne having all 11 of his players in the box. Obviously, with the wind, how strong it is, in-swinging right-footed corner is really putting a bit of pressure on Gio Candy and her defenders. It was well cleared in the end by Emily Roach, who was playing fairly high at the top of their midfield. For her to be sitting that deep shows the concerns Justin has with this team from Alamein that's very, very good on set pieces and score a lot of goals from set pieces.
Well, they very much made their name early in the season for Alamein for not conceding. Just the 2 teams out of the 7 they've played have been able to score even a single goal against Alamein so far this season. Just the 1 defeat suffered as well. But as you mentioned, adding goals to their game as well. A couple of really impressive displays on the road as well. Away at Preston and in midweek at Melbourne City. It's where they've scored the majority of their goals. As TJ Vlanich surges forward now for South Melbourne. Chance over on that left-hand side, but the offside flag is raised. And well, just as we were about 30 seconds before kickoff, you might have seen all the wind and the rain, and just like that, it's a beautiful sunny Saturday afternoon. This is Anna-Leokopoulos for Alamein, sending the ball up towards halfway. Headed centrally towards Houghton. This ball only gets as far as Grace Taranto. Taranto using Doralis and Westland as well. And perhaps for the first time this afternoon, South Melbourne able to just establish a little bit of control in the general play. Fairly direct approach, only as far as Shidara. As you mentioned, Sven, South Melbourne, such a stacked squad, high expectations, plenty of pressure, always with South Melbourne, but particularly when you have the selection of players available to you that they currently do. Had those couple of tough weeks with the tight losses to Box Hill and Spring Hills. That win against Boroondara really much needed for South Melbourne to regain a little bit of momentum and potentially start making their way higher up the ladder. Here's Gutschmidt. Out to the right-hand side where Pantazopoulos is making the run. Has Shilton for company. Pantazopoulos keeping the ball in play. Eventually the cross does come in. It was low and hard. Sent just clear enough by Anna-Leokopoulos. Now Schmelz's pass cut out by Anastasopoulos. So a really enterprising first 5 minutes in this game. Both teams showing plenty of attacking intent.
It's wonderful to see both teams playing like this. Even the structures, when they don't have the ball, they're trying to make the pitch as big as possible so they can drive and take advantage of those half spaces. There's one that's been turned over there, but both teams, within reason, setting up 4-3-3 and making sure that their players, while they've got the ball, as high as they possibly can, as wide as they possibly can. So I've got a really good feeling here today, Oscar, that we might see some goals, whether it's 2-1, 3-2, something along those lines, because both teams, both coaches have come with really good intent. And hopefully for the viewers at home watching the Senol NPLW on YouTube, will be given some great passages of play and hopefully some bangers go in the goals.
Yeah, as you say, facilitated by what is a beautiful playing surface. Lakeside, of course, unavailable in the early part of the season for a variety of reasons. South Melbourne, they have on a couple of occasions piled in the goals, 2 bags of 5 to their name. So we certainly know that they're capable of scoring. The challenge has been in those games where it's not all going their way. The other 5 games, just the 3 goals that South Melbourne have scored in them. So it suggests that if they're able to get a handle on them, South can be tamed. As we see the long-range attempt coming in from Summerlasky, the player that you mentioned pre-game, Sven. Such attacking talent and one of those classic recruits who looks like a real raw threat, but when she gets it right, really tough to stop.
We just see Bella Wallhead down on the ground at the moment. Referee going over there to see if she needs any attention. Hopefully everything's all right with Bella. She had an ACL injury back in season 2023. So hopefully she's right here. But no, Lasky is joined quite a few visa players this year that are really lighting up the NPLW, and I think Baselli at Box Hill is one that I really like watching. As I mentioned, Sloane Young. So no, listen, I think the quality coming to the league is wonderful, and again, someone's on the ball now.
Just unable to keep the ball in play, Lasky, former US college player. Did spend a season in New Zealand before making the move to NPLW Victoria. Spent that at Wellington United. Here's Shilton sending it forward, skimming over the top of the head of Zoe Houghton. This is Collier, whose pass put Schmelzer under a little bit of pressure, but the central defender showing all of her composure. Candy taking no chances as they lob it up into the sky. There is a whistle from our referee. Should mention as well, Daphne Foundries with the whistle in the middle, assisted by Nicholas Pantelides and Emma Borschman, as well as Angelique Manjon, the fourth official. And the Alamein, who now have themselves another dead ball situation. Poked inside the penalty area, headed clear initially. Here is Doralis, Leokopoulos. Finds its way all the way back out to the free kick taker in Dustin. South Melbourne quick to regain possession.
I must say this season, and I know we're only 8 games into the season, but the level of officiating this season I think has been fantastic, and it's a credit to Football Victoria and what they're putting together in their referees department, and also the women and men who have been officiating so far. I think the standards have been really high, and it really adds to this competition, and it's wonderful to see.
That ball into the area was asking a bit of Lasky, and Taranto getting her body in the right position to shield the ball and win the free kick. Grace Taranto occupying that right fullback position. Certainly won't be surprised to see her move around the pitch at various points across the 90 minutes. Well, we're seeing every time really that Alamein are getting themselves a free kick in the South Melbourne half. It's a one-way ticket to a ball into the penalty area. They're really looking to apply the pressure to South just constantly. Dustin again standing over this one, and this time plays it short towards Lasky, but it's cleverly cut out by Emily Roach. Here is Pantazopoulos on the counter for South Melbourne. Doesn't have a lot of support at the moment, Pantazopoulos. Goes herself, but there was Shidara applying the block. Well, it's been no doubting the game plan for Alamein. It's get the ball into the box, cause some havoc for the South Melbourne defence.
I think when you've got such a wonderful target player such as Runnels, it's always something that Alamein do, and on their smaller pitch, she's such a player to try and have as the target player, and then teams have to make sure they get underneath her for that second ball. Here, on such a wonderful pitch as we have here at Lakeside, it's probably a little bit harder, but the game hasn't changed, plan hasn't changed too much by Alamein coach John Kurgos, so it'll be interesting to see. But listen, the game started, I think, at a fair pace. Both teams are trying to play football, but Runnels is that target player for those balls.
I mean, to be fair, any assiduous viewers of Victorian football over the last few years will have seen plenty of set-piece and dead ball play styles from Lakeside Stadium over the last 5 or so years. So we'll see if Alamein are able to import their approach, which is so effective at Dorothy Laver West Reserve. Westland and Lasky compete. Smith getting there at the same time as Dakota Tyson. Now Collier touched to take it away from Anastasopoulos and eventually skips past her opponent, Emily Collier. Charging out of the defensive line. Now Vlanich has about 3 players making the run in behind. Here's Roach. He's gone just a little bit early. And the assistant's offside flag curtailing the South Melbourne attack. No surprise to see the Alamein defence very well organised and well coordinated. The proof very much in their results at how challenging they can be to get through. Well, of course, Sven, you would be familiar with the ability to actually break down Alamein and score some goals. I mean, if you're coming into this game with South Melbourne, how are you trying to find a weakness in the Alamein backline?
I think it's transition, and it's for all teams in the competition. If you can minimise your touches and have quick transition forward, it opens up pockets and spaces for players to play forward into and run into. And I think without doubt, the teams John's coached along the journey, particularly Burundara and now Alamein, he has his structures and how they set up. It's sometimes a work of art. It's simple, but it's hard to break down, and that's why they are on the ladder where they are at the moment. For South Melbourne, with the class of players they have, particularly up front at the minute, they have the likes of Emily Roach, Alexis Pandazopoulos, and Duralis. I have no fear that both teams have quality players who can score goals, and it'd be interesting to see in the next 75 minutes how many goals we do have and whether we do have goals. But I'm fairly confident we will, and many.
Just for now, both defences doing enough to ward off the attacking threat. Shilton getting there just in time ahead of Pantazopoulos. Looking towards Lasky again. Good first touch. Taking it clear by Tyson. Now Emma Runnels has a bit of space. Thought about pulling the trigger. Instead looked to release Anastasopoulos on the right side. May get another crack at it, the Alamein winger. Cross inside is decent as well. Could fall towards Lasky, but Taranto hoofing it clear. Now Pantazopoulos has Duralis. Opted to go on a little bit of a run. Now looking out to the opposite side, but well read by Estelle Bugis. And you were mentioning, Sven, John Kyrgios and his record, of course, involved in Victorian women's football for such a long time, and a variety of different teams that he's coached. His Burundara that he took up to the top flight and into finals football. Such an exciting attacking team really was their MO. Hold that thought as Alexis Pantazopoulos now looks to get forward. Well played by Leakopoulos. But speaking to John, and he talks about, he's a structural engineer by trade. He's got the setup. He knows the systems and the structures, and he's prepared to adapt what he wants his football team to do based on the players that he's got available. And we see that he's really maximising the use of the skills and the qualities that his current set of 11 out on the pitch have.
I think for many players, he'd be a wonderful coach because he gives them a clear understanding of exactly what he wants, what the expectations are, and if you do that as a coach, it just makes it so much easier for all 23 players in your squad, because if you do, like you say, have an injury or you do make changes, it's fairly simple. But by being so simple, it's not a negative. It's a real strength and positive, and it takes courage of your convictions as a coach to do what John does. But hey, it's successful, and why would you change it?
As you see the free kick given South Melbourne's way, it's been a really entertaining first 18 minutes. Alamein showing that they're more than up for this challenge. But now they'll have to do some defending as South Melbourne look to give them a little bit of a taste of their own medicine. TJ Vlanic, the designated free kick taker as ever. And South Melbourne do themselves have a number of tall targets for which Vlanic may well aim. Left-footed delivery comes in. It's right near goalkeeper Olivia Cow, and it was awkward as well. In the end, we'll be grateful Cowan between the sticks to see it roll behind for a goal kick, but that was dicey to say the least for Alamein.
I think Bella Wallhead will look back on the vision during the week at analysis and think she could have got on the half volley there and knocked it to that back stick in, because it was a great free kick by TJ Vlanic and made it hard for Cowan in goal, but maybe a chance may have slipped past there. But no, again, well organised free kick routine by Justin and his team, and yeah, they were unlucky not to score there.
Here is Lasky cross inside, met by Wallhead. Summer Lasky looking like the most dangerous of the attacking outlets for Alamein so far in this game. We'll get another look now. Left-footed cross. It jumped up into the arm of Bella Wallhead. Lasky now looking to make some space on the right. This is Anastasopoulos, almost teeing up one of her teammates, but South Melbourne send it clear. At one of those heart and mouth moments as a defender when you just slightly mistime the clearing ball and it deflects up into your own body, but rightly no penalty awarded or anything of the sort. So South Melbourne escape again. You'd say in the first 20 minutes they've been doing more defending than their visitors.
First of all, I think it's a great decision by Daphne, our referee, because as the law reads, it definitely wasn't a penalty, although it did come up and strike Bella Warhead in the arm. I would say, yeah, Alamein, kicking with a breeze to in this first half have made the most of it. Lasky is causing a lot of problems. But no, South Melbourne, they can hit you on the counter because they've just got class all over the park. So I think right at the moment, in a strange way, Alamein might be ruining some of their chances that they haven't taken, because if you don't take chances, South Melbourne more than any other club will make you pay.
Well, a little bit of confusion there as Emily Collier made her run right up to the byline, and well, the referee judged that the ball didn't go out of play despite some of the players seeing it differently, and so Alamein eventually scrambling it clear, but not again the most convincing of defensive moments. They won't mind too much as the score does remain at 0-0. This is Westland looking in board, well controlled initially by Doralis. Collier, of course, in combination with TJ Vlanic, very capable of the overlapping and underlapping runs, and Estelle Bugis sending that ball behind, so South Melbourne will have themselves a corner. Alexis Pantazopoulos heading over to deliver. As you see the players crowding around Olivia Cowan. Not the tallest of goalkeepers, so this never a comfortable situation. Pantazopoulos sends it in right into the heart of the box. Headed clear initially by Runnels. The follow-up is still alive. There was Wallhead, Doralis as well. Eventually it spurts out to Pantazopoulos. That really well read by Estelle Bugis. He does give away the foul, though. Pantazopoulos putting on the afterburners and getting there ahead of the Alamein captain, which results in the first yellow card of the afternoon.
Alexis Pantazopoulos' corners is causing a lot of clubs a lot of stress and pressure in goalkeepers, because on the midweek game, that's how they scored versus Burundara. Her right foot in swinging corner, jumped out, and it was well finished by Grace Taranto for the only goal of the match. And again, we see Pantazopoulos over the ball again. I wouldn't think she'd hit it, being a right footer, but TJ's hitting it. Maybe not.
Always keeping you guessing. The ball in this time met by Shilton. Fell to the feet of Westland, but Alamein do enough to get the ball clear. And Estelle Burgess, the captain, will head on over to send in the throw. One of those players who I really enjoy watching, Estelle Burgess. Not the tallest or the quickest, but her capacity to read the game enables her to have such an impact. And of course, you see with the armband, no doubt, an influential figure in the dressing room for Alamein as well.
From what you hear around the competition, one of the better humans, and sets a great culture at Dorothy Laver Reserve for everyone there at Alamein, all the way down to their juniors. So that's a great thing to be spoken about as a captain, that you have input right across your club, and it's a credit to her.
She's got some work to do here, indeed, just enough to block off the couple of South Melbourne attackers. Here is Westland. This time Blanich is in behind. Crosses first time, but had too much on it. And Alamein will chaperone this over the line for a throw. So South Melbourne having one of their better spells in this first half. Been able to gain some territory control. Here is Burgess on the ball for Alamein with Chinatsu Shadara and Analia Kopoulos. Of course, with Shilton back to complete the defensive line in that left fullback position. Leokopoulos, very capable on the ball, plays higher up the pitch as well when necessary. And as Anastasopoulos and Collier resume their battle, Alamein finally find their way to creep inside the South Melbourne half. Of course, this one of 3 Saturday afternoon fixtures in the Senol NPLW Victoria competition. Had the 3 last night as well. Big win for Box Hill, as well as a win for Keilor Park at Bentley, and a 1-1 draw between Preston and Avondale. And then, of course, the game just about to kick off up at Cross Keys. Essendon Royals against Melbourne City, and then fantastic conclusion to the day as Heidelberg and Bulleen go head-to-head. So no shortage of entertainment in the NPLW Victoria this weekend. Flanich and Collier resume their work to try and generate some good looks from that left flank. Burgess and Anastasopoulos working in tandem to try and keep them at bay. Eventually the space is worked for. Fairly speculative attempt sent in, and that's a straightforward claim for Olivia Cowan. Saw the idea there with the passage of play, hoping for Emma Runnels with a back to goal. South Melbourne defensive shape holding up. Goodschmidt works in space well and used Doralis, but here's Leokopoulos stepping out of the defensive line. Still Leokopoulos before eventually Wallhead intervened. Combination of Tyson and Dustin get it back to their centre half, who sends it a long way forward. Alamein just struggling to get the fluency that we saw earlier in the game at the moment. Chance again for Vlanic. Thinking about the cross, goes along the deck. Here's Westland, blocked instead, and eventually it's into the arms of Olivia Cowan. But that's just about as good a look as South Melbourne have had in this game.
I like the composure and how organised Alamein are playing and what they're actually doing. But on the counter, South Melbourne, just with the players they have, the quicker movement is giving them those opportunities every single time. And I think, particularly when one of the Alamein centre backs jumps like Anna Lakopoulos did, pushing down, it opens up that space for Doralis, Panazopoulos, Roach. I think it's very similar, Alamein, how Kogel's got Box Hill set up. They're very patient. They knock it around, look for that nearly diag ball and try and open up the space.
Here's Vlanic now for South Melbourne. Just for a moment, the assistant's flag threatened to be raised as the shot comes in from a long way out. Cowan palming it clear. Just one of those that never looked likely, but all of a sudden the goalkeeper was scrambling. Now Doralis, keeping Leokopoulos away. The cross to the other side is overhit. Call, though, is for a corner, so South Melbourne will get another look in.
No, I think it was definitely a corner. It was a good decision by the officials. And again, Panazopoulos on the ball, as we saw earlier. Now it's the opposite. Alamein have all 11 players, nearly all in the 6-yard box. So this will be interesting to see, particularly with Roach just sitting outside the 18-yard box.
Sent into the heart of the box. Shilton was the player who got that first header. And the reprieve comes for the visitors as the referee's whistle, picking out an infringement, I believe, on Emma Runnels. So Alamein will be grateful for that intervention as we tick past half an hour played at Lakeside Stadium. Thankfully, you'd imagine from the players' perspective, the rain has stayed away for the last little while. See the resumption of this chess match as Alamein seek to pick their way through. Once again, the referee's whistle coming to their aid. And this time, Leokopoulos perhaps thinking we'll just get it up and go for distance. Indeed, that is the approach. Sets a task for Runnels, who flicked it into the path of Lasky. Falls now to Dustin. Now this is Bouges. Inboard towards Houghton, beaten to it by Schmelzer. Now, Ever Goodsmith, you saw 3 Alamein shirts converge, but the youngster navigated the traffic. Alamein, this time their pressing pays off as they force the error. So a chance perhaps for a bit of a reprieve for the Alamein defensive line as they can reapply the pressure on South Melbourne. Dangerous giveaway for Pantazopoulos. Shilton stepping in to save the day for Alamein. Leokopoulos' header into the path of Pantazopoulos. Looks to have the pace to beat Shilton, but that was experienced defending from the number 5, using her body just to prevent Pantazopoulos from getting that little bit of separation that she was looking for. I
know this sounds a bit upside down, Oscar, but every time Alamein push forward, it's nearly the best opportunity for South Melbourne to hit them on the counter, because that's when South Melbourne have looked their most dangerous, when the ball's been played forward quickly. They're very lucky there, Alamein, with a big square ball that Panazopoulos didn't pick it off.
A little bit of push and shove in the 6-yard area, which attracts the referee's attention. So managed to deliver again, this time from the camera side corner flag. This one has a little bit more depth. It finds a teammate's header as well. To the edge of the area, Westland, now Roach. Alamein looking to step out of the defensive line. There's Estelle Bugis. That's a vital touch, and it could be the foundation of an Alamein counter. There was Bella Wallhead. Taranto inboard to Westland. Now Vlanic, thinking about the shot, instead goes out to the supporting run of Pantazopoulos. Makes some space, the right-footed attempt. Catches a couple of touches on its way through. And we're back where we started, as South Melbourne will once again have a corner from this near side.
Again, South Melbourne's opportunity to attack was on the counter after Alamein looked to play forward. And I think that'd be something Alamein's coaching staff will need to have a bit of a chat about at halftime, to work out what's going to happen with their rest defence, or their defence when they are in that positive transition going forward.
Vlanic sends it in, this time a little closer to the goalkeeper. It hits the deck. It's a scramble in the goal mouth. Alamein doing just enough to get it clear. As you're describing, Sven, it is such a feature of modern football, really, of course, when it's so reliant on transition, those transitions on top of the transitions, where a team finally comes out of their defensive shape and takes a little bit of a risk with their positioning and players pushing forward. And it's then when they are the most vulnerable. It's really a trend I think you can see football the world over. Why having possession and controlling the game can be so useful. Not so much for the chance creation just from those kinds of build-ups, but because you get to do the transitions on top of the transitions.
And interestingly enough, Oscar, with that, the team who have the best control of the tempo by doing it are normally the ones who can make the most of it and punish the opposition, as we saw a wonderful shot on goal there by Emma Runnels.
A cracking shot indeed. Runnels saw the opportunity present itself and just let loose. Had Gio Candy scrambling. But from a South Melbourne perspective, grateful that it's narrowly off target.
That was an outstanding strike and goals by Emma Runnels. Interestingly enough, at about the 17-minute mark, Emma Runnels had Gio Candy scrambling backwards and she didn't take the shot. I think that time she just thought, well, no, I can't let that chance slip. And, it was outstanding.
Could be another chance in the offing here. If Anastasiopoulos can get there in time, which she can. Well kept in by the Alamein winger. Savannah Anastasiopoulos looks inboard, met by Westland. A handball called there off the Alamein captain. And now South spring forward again. Pantazopoulos has space in behind. Doralis is there in the middle. If she needs a Pantazopoulos, Shilton again. And she's given away the corner, but well, you can see Joe Shilton not totally thrilled with that decision, but it is just such smart defending, leaning in to Pantazopoulos, putting her off balance and not giving her that opportunity to get the clean ball inside, as we see the rain returns with a vengeance.
Interestingly too, Oscar, they've turned the lights on here, and one of the ball kids out there for South Melbourne's former premiership coach George Georgiadis, so that's an interesting thing to see.
Flanich delivers deep into the box. Do you think it's where George saw himself 3 years later as he was lifting the championship with South Melbourne in 2023?
Maybe it's incredibly smart by the coaching staff at South Melbourne. Justin might have him on the far side of the pitch because with the wind and the rain, it's hard to sometimes get information to the far side of the ground with Taranto, Wallhead and Alexis Pandazopoulos on this side. Maybe George is doing a bit of coaching, Oscar.
You do see him still so heavily involved in South Melbourne's NPLW program. And often if you walk past, he's giving instructions, giving his advice, all of his years of experience and expertise. Such a valuable asset to South Melbourne, even without holding the head coach position. Here's Runnels losing out to a couple of South Melbourne opponents. Misha Westland contemplated pulling the trigger. Now Pantazopoulos. Goodsmith. Ball inside will be cut off and carried forward by Dakota Tyson. Well, the ball really springing forward now. The wind, it's definitely coming from the right of your screen, but also a little bit towards the camera side of the ground. Direction in which Bella Wallhead was retreating to pick up that last Alamein attempted counter-attack. We're into the final 5 minutes of this opening 45. No goals, but no shortage of entertainment either. Both teams have had spells in this first half where they've looked the more likely and in control of the general play. Chance here for Roach, charging into the Alamein half. Looks inboard towards Doralis. Falls instead to Vlanich. Vlanich with the cross towards the far post. There's Pantazopoulos. Just couldn't get the timing right with the shot. Still the chance is alive. Looks inboard. Doralis will pick this one up inside the box. Looking to turn past Shadara, who goes to ground and looks to have accidentally copped a little bit of a knock in the face.
I think for the viewers at home, it has been open and end-to-end football, which is what we want to see. South Melbourne set up sometimes with a bit of a mid-block there, while Alamein knocked the ball about in their back four. But most of the times, both teams are looking to play forward, open the pitch up, and try and unlock each other's defences, which has been great.
Another dead ball for South Melbourne. This one a little bit more depth. Falls towards Taranto. Taranto again. Maybe a third crack at it. Alamein do just enough, and Zoe Houghton was brought down in the box. So another half-decent look for South Melbourne. You'd imagine that John Kyrgios wouldn't mind the half-time whistle at the moment. His team clinging on just a little bit.
Grace Taranto is making herself a nuisance in the 18-yard box from corners in these past sort of 72 hours. Scored the winner on Wednesday night from a similar situation, and maybe it's someone they need to man up on, because she just seems to be in those right positions more often than not.
Of course, as we've mentioned, just so tough to defend because there are so many of those players who can pop up in the dangerous areas and grab a goal just before half-time. Touch there from Runnels. Doesn't get far into the South Melbourne half. Of course, so much on the line today for Alamein. The chance to at least temporarily go to the top of the tree if they were to win this afternoon. With a game against Box Hill next week to come as well. The offside flag will deny South Melbourne a chance there. But if Alamein were able to win their next 2 games, they'd be putting themselves in a really superb position after a couple of months of the season. Still got a long way to go in this one, with South Melbourne doing their best to try to make them crack. Candy should get to this one first, and indeed does, the goalkeeper.
I think you're exactly right, Oscar. If Alamein can grab 3 points here today, their home ground advantage is just magnificent for that club, and no one likes going to play at Dorothy Laver, and I think 3 points today will really cement their spot in that top 4.
Of course, Alamein, one of those teams who really has to make an early running if they are to be competitive towards the end of an NPLW season, being less the benefactors from A-League returnees than some of their rivals. Maybe beneficiaries would have been a better word there, but we'll power on. That ball met by Wallhead. Here is Shilton. Sent wide by Tyson. Now Westland running into a little bit of trouble in the shape of Emma Runnels. And that cleverly played off Jess Shilton by Alexis Pantazopoulos. That's been a really enjoyable duel in this first half. Pantazopoulos and Shilton. As we get the confirmation of just the 1 minute of first half stoppage time to be played. So maybe time for one more good look at either end. One of those games that the way that it's being played combined with the conditions will be hard going for both sets of players. They'll be looking forward to a little bit of a break as we see Pantazopoulos. The ball played into her heels, but she did enough to recover. Alexis Pantazopoulos along the deck to Doralis. South Melbourne grabbed the lead. Raquel Doralis with the finish made by Alexis Pantazopoulos. And just seconds before the halftime break, it is South Melbourne who take the 1-0 lead.
Wonderful control by South Melbourne there. Emily Roach was just looking for options, kept moving. Well, now it's half-time, Oscar, so it is finished the half at 1-0 for South Melbourne. But Roach sat on the ball, just waited for that movement. Ball was played to Pantazopoulos, and it was a great right foot cross in where Doralis finished beautifully to the back stick. So well done to South Melbourne.
Well, the last kick of the half is the most important one. Raquel Doralis, composed finish as ever. And with that, well, that'll change the mood in both dressing rooms at the halftime break. South Melbourne now have themselves a lead. They probably deserve it, all things considered. And for Alamein, they'll need to come out with perhaps a more attacking approach in the second 45 if they are now to get something from this game. But plenty still to look forward to in the second 45. At halftime, though, at Lakeside Stadium, the scoreline reads South Melbourne 1, Alamein 0. Well, welcome back to Lakeside Stadium. Second half underway between South Melbourne and Alamein. The score at the halftime break, 1-0 to South. The last kick of the half, Raquel Doralis finally getting the better of Olivia Cowan with a clever finish from close range after Alexis Pantazopoulos' creative work on the wing. So it means that coming into the second 45, the game dynamic has changed. Alamein needing to chase, South Melbourne with something to defend. So we see a first look sent forward by Emma Runnels, but Sven Samuel, as I welcome you back to the call, expecting maybe a more ambitious approach this half from Alamein.
Oh, without doubt, because they have the ability to score multiple goals, and they've proven that this year. So I would like to think that they'll play far more attacking. I think playing into the breeze a little bit might suit their players because they can release the ball in behind and have the likes of Samolaski run onto the ball, also Savannah. So it may be interesting to see, but I think we're going to be in for a cracking game here. And again, the Senol NPL Victoria competition is giving us lots to enjoy.
Well, nearly an early giveaway as Savannah Anastasiopoulos just about pounced on an opportunity, but Michaela Schmelzer doing well enough to come away with the ball. Here is Pantazopoulos for South Melbourne. That corner, or that cross rather, leaving a little bit to be desired. Ball given away though, another chance for Pantazopoulos from a long way out. Rattling the woodwork, Alexis Pantazopoulos, and very nearly doubling South Melbourne's lead.
Oh, we've seen Alexis Pantazopoulos do that many times in her career, and I know she's only young, but if you've been watching NPL Victoria, whether it's firstly at Heidelberg and then at FV Academy in the Nationals and in the national team squad, that's what you come to expect from Alexis Pantazopoulos. What a great start for South Melbourne.
Second goal there would have been such a valuable outcome for Justin Mikulev and his team early in the second 45. They do now have themselves a free kick though. Have proven themselves capable of grinding out results. South Melbourne, of course, getting that 1-0 win over Burundara just a few days ago. A couple of 1-1 draws as well against Preston and Heidelberg. But they'll be looking for a second to just make their life a little bit more comfortable. Olivia Cowan setting the wall. And TJ Vlanic to deliver. It's a nice ball as well. Well, it was a clean header. It's as good a look, really, as you think you might get from that kind of situation. In the end, unable to keep the attempt down was Michaela Schmelzer. But South Melbourne have had now they've come close rather, twice already in the second 45.
I think Michaela Schmelzer is a player who's warming to the NPLW here in Victoria, and I rate her really highly. Her form last year at Manly was very impressive in New South Wales, and I expect great things from that player. I think she's a real talent.
You've been a key cog of the South Melbourne defensive line throughout the early stages in this season. Not the first time, mind you, that she's been in a really good position in the box and unable to finish. Just lacking a little bit of polish in the opposition box, but that's of course not her primary responsibility. Here's a chance for TJ Vladic, wrestling with Jess Shilton and unable to keep the ball in play. We've spoken about Alamein's defensive record and how much of a role that's played in their early season success. South Melbourne not too shabby either, as their defence will be tested here once again. Dustin charging forward, met by Wallhead. And still continuing the run was Bella Wallhead. For South Melbourne, just the 6 goals conceded in their opening 7 games. Only Alamein and Boleyn have conceded fewer. So they're more than capable of putting up a solid back line and keeping out the opposition. Even if it's just the one clean sheet that they've got to their name so far this season. That ball over the top from Leakopoulos, over the head of Shilton. And so Grace Taranto will restart play with the throw. Should mention as well this head-to-head that has certainly favoured South Melbourne in recent times. They've won the last 3 meetings between these two teams. Last time Alamein got the chocolates against South was here at Lakeside back in 2023, thanks to a Sydney Allen goal. But the scoreline as it stands right now, it's how it ended last season when these two teams met at this venue, a 1-0 South Melbourne win. So Alamein looking to buck that trend with a goal or two in this second 45. Here's Lasky looking to get past Schmelzer. The cross is a good one. Anastasopoulos just unable to direct the ball towards goal. And in the end, TJ Vlanich taking no chances and sending the ball out of play.
Again, when Summerlasky is the attacking avenue to goal for Alamein, I think Gio Candy's heart is firmly racing because she is just fantastic with her passing. She's fantastic with her runs. And that cross there, if they just had someone at the top of the box, I think they would have been 1-1 the score as we see the ball go out for a goal kick. The other interesting thing is now with Pandasopoulos on the commentary side of the pitch against Alamein's captain Estelle Willis, they'll have enough pace to go with Alexis Pandasopoulos, and we may see a switch, although she did set up the goal just before half-time. I thought the duel between her and Shilton was absolutely outstanding, so that'll be an interesting watch.
Pantasopoulos is in plenty of space. She's lingering out on this left-hand side, so if the ball does end up in her direction, she'll have some space to craft an opportunity. Vlanich is instead tasked with the run here and did well to keep it in play, but Shilton recovered better. One back by Goodsmith. Now Doralis, the goal scorer. Clever exchange, sets through Raquel Doralis. Goes with the cross along the deck. Alamein doing just enough to send the ball clear. Schmelzer. Using Westland. Combination with Roach. Now this is Collier. Pantasopoulos. Well marshalled by Burgess, but Pantasopoulos continuing to nip away. For Leakopoulos, hoofed it clear. Clever touch from Roach, and charging into her was Dustin. And the referee's whistle means South Melbourne will have a free kick from a decent position, maybe just a little bit too far out for some of the set-piece specialists, but a number of options available to South Melbourne for how they want to approach this one.
Interesting to see Bella Wallhead attacking the ball as hard as she did there with the header, put Roach into a position where she was at the top of the box, and it was one of those win or die moments for Alamein. So let's see what happens here.
It's Westland standing over the ball. She can certainly hit a free kick. That's what she's going for here. And it wasn't too bad an attempt, but over the crossbar and behind Olivia Cowan's goal. Hearing the Alamein voices there, continuing to try and keep team morale high. Update from around the grounds as well as the Essendon Royals Melbourne City game arrives at its halftime break. Just to the northwest of Lakeside here with the Royals 2-1 up against Melbourne City. Start of today's play, the Royals just a point ahead of South Melbourne, so a chance for both of those teams to make some ground up towards the finals positions. Nothing else, a South Melbourne win this afternoon would do its bit to congest the NPLW ladder. As Pantazopoulos cleverly lets the ball run behind. Looking to skip around Burgess, and the defensive pressure was enough to force the error.
Oscar, as we see a sun-bathed Lakeside Stadium with the weather changing yet again here in Melbourne, I'm starting to get a little concerned for Alamein. Their outlet passes from their fullbacks are getting chopped off or picked off a lot of the time by the South Melbourne midfielders.
All in from Roach. It's a nice idea and it's awkward for Cowan, who collided a little bit with the frame of her own goal. Still the attack is alive as Doralis heads it towards Pantazopoulos. Very nearly falling into the path of the South Melbourne winger. In the end, Alamein will get away with the goal kick. But as you say, it's been, for the most part, a continuation of what we saw for the last 20 or 30 minutes of the first 45. Alamein really struggling to get out of their own half. South Melbourne buoyed by the lead that they have, cutting off passes time after time. Something which we saw a lot of in the first half, that was a bit more evenly distributed with both teams participating.
Maybe the midweek football starting to tell. On Alamein, a lot of their players during options when the ball's out, they've got hands on their head. They're looking a little fatigued, so heading towards 60 minutes. It'd be interesting to see what Coach John does at Alamein, if he does make some changes, because at the minute they need some energy out in the pitch. I know Cowan, the goalkeeper, is talking really positively and trying to inject enthusiasm into their squad, but right at the moment they're looking a little flat, and South Melbourne are really pressing hard here, and I'm fearing a goal very shortly for South Melbourne.
Well, it is an unchanged bench in terms of outfielders for Alamein, as with the game against Melbourne City during the week. And they do have attacking options. Anais Yosefsky may be the most glaring of them, but also the Laurie twins and Priya Archdeacon, Jordan Tom's wedge too. Here's Vlanich for South Melbourne. We saw the idea, there was that space in the top corner where she was aiming, but a little bit too much on the attempt. So they are with some attacking reinforcements to come from the bench, should John Kyrgios decide to use them. South Melbourne, mind you, have their own reasonable share of threats to come in the second 45. You'd imagine at some point we might see some of Franny Iamano and or Nikki Furukawa. Players very capable of threatening in the final third. That ball's found its way all the way to the byline, and Emily Collier resumes play with the throw. Doralis looking to skip around Shidara, and the foul has been identified by our referee. Just as we say it does look as if Alamein are readying their first change or two to come from the substitutes bench as we tick past the hour mark, or will in a matter of seconds.
I think South Melbourne also walked to the fourth official, Angelique, and handed some paperwork in. So I think it'll be changes. I think it'll be exactly the player you mentioned, Frenier.
The ball in's good and headed home. This time, Michaela Schmelzer makes no mistake. They've threatened from the dead ball all afternoon, and this time, well, a little bit of concern in the aftermath as one of the Alamein players is down. I believe it's Olivia Cowan, the goalkeeper, copping a substantial blow. Was a Schmelzer header into the back of the net, but Alamein very quick to point to their goalkeeper on the deck. So we'll wait and see what happens from this. Some real concern for Olivia Cowan. One of those scenarios where the massive body's all charging for the ball. And amongst all that, as we see Cowan receiving that treatment, South Melbourne will make a couple of substitutions. Alexis Pantasopoulos and Raquel Doralis withdrawn. So we'll see if and how both coaches decide to shuffle their packs upon the resumption, but first and foremost, the concern for Olivia Cowan. See the stretcher being brought out. Miranda Templeman, the substitute goalkeeper for Alamein, warming up and getting ready to get involved in this one. Well, as we see Cowan now being stretchered from the field of play, just taking a look at the replay, looked to have just copped an incidental blow as the pack of players threw themselves towards the ball. So we certainly wish Olivia Cowan all the best. As Miranda Templeman moves to check in on her goalkeeping union colleague before taking up her position between the sticks. Well, it's never a nice moment, of course, when you see a player stretchered from the field. You saw the concern from both sets of players as well in the immediate aftermath.
No, it's one of those situations, particularly for obviously her family watching. No one wants incidents like this, but being a father of some goalkeepers, it's sadly they're brave beyond words. And again, Olivia was very brave there, competing for the ball in the air, and no, the contact is been not deliberate, but sadly inherent risks being a goalkeeper has forced that to happen, which is not ideal.
So the goal will stand. So it is 2-0 to South Melbourne, the score, as play gets back underway. So Alamein with a mountain to climb. To mention those couple of changes for South Melbourne. From what I can tell, Nikki Furukawa and Franny Iamano coming into the game to replace Pantazopoulos and Doralis, as that shot is comfortably claimed by Gio Candy.
Just something I witnessed there. Fantastic by Rachel Doralis. She's run down into the tunnel to go and see how Olivia Cowan is, and I think that says a lot about not only the NPLW but also how they all look after each other, and something like that is not something anyone feels good about. And for Rachel to run down there and check out how Olivia is testament to what a good human Rachel Doralis is.
Yeah, well, it was, of course, Doralis whose contact did the damage to Olivia Cowan. Of course, totally accidental, but evidently concerned for a fellow player, so as you say, Sven. Doralis showing the utmost concern for her opponent, but in any case, the players on the pitch have a job to get on with, and for Alamein, it's a sizable one at that. Michaela Schmelzer scoring her first goal in South Melbourne colours, and with that, having the hosts in pole position to carry on and grab themselves 3 points. See if Alamein have something left to say about that one, though, as the ball finds its way all the way to Gio Candy. From the looks of things, Priya Archdeacon has also been substituted into the game. So John Kyrgios making a move of his own as Alamein look to attack down the left this time. That one intercepted by Bella Wallhead.
I think also tactically, Coach John at Alamein's pushed Runnels to the 9 position, which he does quite often for the final 20 minutes of game. So they're looking obviously to score, which is what we want to see. And South Melbourne bringing on Nikki Furukawa, one of my favourite players. I think she's a delightful footballer.
Corner sent in deep. Runnels was the closest to it for Alamein. Lasky on the follow-up. And sent clear out to Dustin. Puts it back into the mixer, headed by Shidara. And off target. Priya Archdeacon coming on, I believe, for Dakota Tyson is the midfield substitution. Archdeacon, a player of whom John Kyrgios speaks very highly and has featured from the bench on a number of occasions this season and tends to make a positive impact.
Priya has wonderful speed, and she displayed that for many years playing at Bulleen in their junior system, and she's brought that now to NPLW, playing at Alamein for the past 2 seasons. And you can coach many things, but you can't coach speed, and that's one thing Priya's got lots of.
Ball sent out towards Furukawa, who let it run behind Shilton. And maybe just still a little bit of rust for Nikki Furukawa coming off the bench, and that touch sending it behind for a goal kick, which Miranda Templeman will take. A very able replacement between the sticks if you're Alamein. Player with A-League experience. Of course, formerly of South Melbourne as well, Miranda Templeman. Here is Furukawa. Uses Roach. One back by Dustin. Runnels' touch into the path of Westland, and Dustin will get another crack. Looks towards Anastasopoulos, who charges after the ball. Anastasopoulos, another one of those players in the Alamein ranks who just looks like a bundle of energy and tries her heart out week in, week out. There's a little bit of concern now for Jess Shilton on that far side of the pitch, who's hobbling fairly significantly. So perhaps the injury woes deepening for Alamein, as Jess Shilton really struggling to put any weight on that left leg. John Kuros having to make full use of his squad this afternoon. And a couple of other substitutions about to be introduced. So confirmation there that Harriet Laurie has been brought on in place of Jess Shilton, so that a fairly straight swap. And from the looks of things, Savannah Anastasopoulos also withdrawn, and she'll make way for Anais Yasevsky in what is another direct change. So Yasevsky's pace and guile up top to threaten the South Melbourne defence in these final 20 or so minutes.
No, some really good changes by Alamein there, and Nay's pace will really test Collier in the South Melbourne defence.
Yeah, Yasevsky, a player who's now been around the traps quite a while in NPLW Victoria, a number of different clubs. Had perhaps a most productive spell with Burundara, scoring 10 goals from 21 starts in her best season. Certainly make life uncomfortable for Emily Collier in these final minutes. Decent first touch there from Roach. There's about 4 Alamein players surrounding her, Emily Roach, but you'd back her to find her way out of a phone booth. She gets the ball back to the scorer of the second goal, Michaela Schmelzer. Now Vlanic sending it up to Franny Iamano in the fairly unusual number 9 position that she's taken up. One of those players who you can put anywhere on the park, Franny Iamano, and she'll do a job. Certainly has plenty of pace and finishing abilities too. That ball through for Houghton, looking to get there ahead of Wallhead. Decent battle, Houghton gets the cross inside. Well, Taranto had to be there, otherwise there were about 3 Alamein players lining up to put it into the back of the net. Real crunching challenge there from Nev Dustin as she now looks to send Lasky away. Candy's a long way off their line. Summer Lasky. Oh, the goalkeeper doing just enough to claim the ball. That one maybe not in the goalkeeping textbook, but it got the job done for Gio Candy.
I think Gio Candy would have been very relieved that that ball was safely in her grasp there. I think she might have had a little bit of flashbacks to the Spring Hills game where she had one escape her that normally someone of the class of a Gio Candy would always save. I think, Oscar, with these changes, it'll encourage Alamein to play more direct and play quicker in between the centre-backs and the full-backs with balls, because with Lasky and Jasevsky both having immense pace, this is going to be, I think, some really exciting football to watch. Yes, I know it's only, it's 2-0 at the 75th minute, but I still think Alamein, they've got opportunities here.
Well, with that break in play, another couple of changes to be made by Justin Mikulev. as Alana Byrne and Kiara Chronopoulos come into the game. They take the place of Misha Westland and Emily Roach. So expecting a couple of substitutions in midfield, maybe hoping to regain a little bit of control as Alamein, well, as they brace for Alamein to throw everything at these final 15 minutes. Yusevsky winning the throw.
This is where it's hard for Justin Micallef. He's got such a stacked squad with so many quality footballers that he tries his hardest to give them all the minutes that they crave or need. And again, this might open up a chances for Alamein to have 4 or 5 players come onto the pitch all at the same time. Sometimes it can lead to some structure breaking down, and your opposition can take advantage of it. Yes, they're amazing footballers and they're really highly regarded by everyone in the competition, but sometimes just that synergy and that movement can just be not as fluid as it was previously.
Yeah, always the risk-reward of making substitutions. You do get fresh legs, some fresh perspectives, but always the risk of destabilising or imbalancing what's been a fairly effective showing for South Melbourne this afternoon. Here's Eva Goodsmith looking forward towards TJ Vlanich. Gets the ball back, does the South Melbourne midfielder. Now Vlanich, this time with the right, sets Franny Iamano a task, and too great it proved to be. Well, if you're South Melbourne, they're not too far away now as we tick into the 78th minute from securing what would be back-to-back really impressive wins against two of the best teams in the early part of the NPLW season, Boroondara and Alamein. They may well be about to do it without conceding a goal either. So as much as things have been a little bit stop-start for South Melbourne in the early part of the campaign when they've been challenged by some of the best in the division, it's looking as if they've been able to up their game and really stamp their authority and reassert their status as one of the legitimate contenders this season.
Without doubt, Oscar, I think if they get through this game and grab the 3 points here, basically they've beaten teams 1 or 2 on the ladder, and so they've done extremely well. They have got class all over the pitch, and it's good to see them starting to, as you say, stamp their authority on the NPLW, because we want the best teams and the best players playing at the pointy end of the season, and I think without doubt, they're going to be bringing in A-Leaguers. The rumours are about players such as Clancy Westaway are looking to be coming to South Melbourne, so changes afoot, and it's only going to strengthen them, as everyone else normally gets strengthened by the addition of the A-Leaguers come the middle of May.
Win today for South Melbourne. We'll see them leapfrog both Spring Hills and Avondale up to 14 points from their first 8 games, and just a couple behind Alamein and the 4 behind league-leading Box Hill. TJ Vlanich for South. And to race past Bugis, and Shidara's block sends in behind for a corner.
I think the really scary thing, Oscar, for the competition is last year Box Hill came from a long way back. And the addition of their A-League has sent them on a run that led them all the way to winning the title. This year they're already starting at the top of the table, and it's just extraordinary how well they've done.
That corner met by the head of Emma Runnels, standing right in the heart of the box. That header forward. Crunching challenge from Dustin. Could set away Yasevsky. Here's a chance for Alamein. The ball towards Lasky. needing to score here, Summerlaski. We can see she collapses to the ground. She's a wonderful player. That one not her best effort, and she can't believe that she's been unable to hit the target with that attempt.
I think she had far more time than she realised, Oscar. I think she could have kept driving and really put Gio Candy under pressure in the South Melbourne goal. She could have been one-on-one basically in the 6-yard box. So chance probably spooned there.
We're mentioning, Sven, how Box Hill really came from the outside to make their charge towards last season's championship. It's been a bit of a trend over the last 2 or 3 years, hasn't it? Box Hill last season, Heidelberg the season before that, even South the season before that. They weren't necessarily the team dominant throughout the regular season, but they played their best football at the pointy end of the season, and makes the competition so much more dynamic and exciting when you know that any team really could pop from the middle of the pack and become the best going round.
I think, Oscar, it's modern sport. The teams or in any competition that have momentum, and even in games, we see teams who have momentum really, if they can harness that momentum, anything's possible. And as you rightly said, it's happened the past 2 seasons. At this stage, though, Box Hill, jumped out the gates. They're going really well, and as soon as you put someone in the calibre of Rihanna Policina into that team, who's doing a great job as their assistant coach, while still playing at Melbourne Victory, it'd be a joy to have players to that ability coming into your squad in mid-May.
Certainly much to look forward to in the coming months of the NPLW competition. But for the next 8 minutes of the 90, plus any stoppage time, Alamein will continue to poke and prod in search of a route back into this game. The rain has returned, and the beautiful sun that we saw about half an hour ago, a mere figment of our imaginations at this point in time.
Interesting, Oscar, that some Alamein's 20s players are now come to be ball kids on this far side of the pitch where the ball's running out, to make sure strategically they keep the ball in play as much as they can to try and score some goals.
Here's Jasewski cutting into the left. Crucial intervention coming. Shadara stepping out of the defensive line. Houghton looked to turn inside, but there was Byrne, and a pretty clear-cut foul on that occasion. And I know under-20s players wanting to make an impression and do the right thing, but I'm not sure how badly I'd want it if I'd be in a situation to be sent out in these conditions to go and play ball kid.
No, it's nearly wetsuit and flippers territory out here, Oscar, as we see some more changes.
We can report that the youth team players have retreated to the shelter of the grandstand when the ball isn't out of play. But as you say, changes coming in. Dustin withdrawn, and Emma Runnels as well going to be taken out for the final minutes of this game. And the final couple of outfielders, Matilda Laurie and Jordan Toms-Wedge, featuring for the last few minutes for Alamein here. Throw in taken short. Alamein have themselves a throw. Here's Phrenopoulos for South Melbourne. Skidding shot met by Annalia Kopoulos. Now Jasewski on the right flank for Alamein. Vlanich gets it to Furukawa. Nikki Furukawa! It's 3 for South. Nikki Furukawa coming off the bench and sealing the win. It's been a physical, hard-fought afternoon, but in the end, South Melbourne just having too much. And Nikki Furukawa adding their name to the score sheet as South Melbourne make it 3-0.
Some wonderful interplay there. TJ Vlanich just being persistent, using her experience, cutting the ball back, and to have such a player as Nikki Furukawa coming off the bench is such a joy. And what a great finish to put this game to bed, as we'll probably see some more changes by Coach Justin Micallef for South Melbourne, trying to give some of his younger players an opportunity in the last dying minutes of this game.
That goal, Furukawa's second of the season, coming from the bench. Quite a lot as we've seen this season. And very capable of making the impact that we just saw there. Alamein at this point really just hunting for some kind of consolation. 3-0, and South Melbourne deserved the win. 3-0 does feel a little bit harsh for the effort that Alamein have put in this afternoon. South Melbourne will not be fast. They'll be hunting something more as Franny Iamano now. I mean, you'd imagine that if you offered Justin Micallef a 3-0 win from this afternoon's game, he'd just about bite your hand off.
No, I think 2 tremendous wins in the past 5 days by South Melbourne, and it'll take a lot of pressure of Justin and his team.
Chance here for Collier. Cross along the ground for Furukawa, the target, but just behind the winger making the run. Mentioned the big couple of weeks coming up for both of these teams. Alamein next week back at home to play Box Hill, and then they head to Kerry Sports Complex to play Boroondara. So a couple of huge games towards the top of the NPLW ladder. Whilst for South Melbourne, they too have a couple of major tasks coming their way as we see the final substitutions of the game being made. But for South, next week they head to the Veneto Club to take on Bulleen before back here at Lakeside to host Avondale. So plenty of the big hitters going head-to-head over the next couple of weeks. So.
No, I think that's the great thing about the Senol NPLW. You know, in the past few years, going from 10 teams to 12 teams to 14 teams, you can go through some pockets where games, or you go on a run of games that aren't as challenging, but for both these clubs, they've got some very challenging games in front of them, and heading to Carey Sports Fields to play Boroondara on probably one of the smallest pitches in the competition would not be something I'd be looking forward to.
Here is Sophie Papatsanis, that latest change being brought on and playing out the final few minutes. Can't be comfortable coming on in the 90th minute in conditions like this. Look, I'd like to play, but at this point, I might just stay wrapped up in my coat on the bench.
I can say during my time of coaching amazing female footballers, we've probably had one or two of the more experienced elder statesmen, if you want to call it that, say to me, listen, I'm more than happy to stay fresh and warm. You normally have the younger players, the 16, 17-year-olds who they'll go on with 2 seconds to go if there's a hailstorm. So I understand exactly what you're saying there, Oscar.
Privilege that comes with a little bit of pedigree and experience, perhaps. Here's Francesca Iamano for South Melbourne, hoping to add a fourth now, met by Analia Kopoulos. Should mention as well, Sophie Papatsanis coming on for Emily Collier, who I thought had a really fantastic game in that fullback position, did a really good job at keeping tabs on some of the tricky and pacey Alamein wingers, and she's had about 3 of them to deal with, whether it be Anastasopoulos or Lasky or Yasevsky, but they've coped very impressively with the threat.
I think her interchange play of positions with TJ Valanik is fantastic. You mentioned earlier in the call the underlaps and the overlap running, and it's something that's wonderful to see, something that's often encouraged by coaches, but to actually carry it out like they both did, particularly in that first half, was outstanding. And I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think Alamein looked a bit fatigued from the midweek game, and it may also, that hard running that South Melbourne did early in the game may have, taken some, credits out of the bank of Alamein and really put them on the back foot to facilitate the scoreline we see right now.
Well, with this result, it will be 2 defeats in 3 for Alamein, but they've still got plenty to build on with their start to the season. The 16 points from their first 8 games. I can imagine if you offered that to John Kyrgios at the start of the campaign, he would have considered that a very decent return. And they still are showing a lot of those really good qualities. Of course, it's tough, though, to keep out a team which is as brimming with talent as South Melbourne is, and as persistent and dedicated as they are. Ball given away in a really dangerous place. Here's Iamano looking to add a fourth for South Melbourne. Furukawa in the middle. Couldn't put it into the empty net, so South Melbourne passing up an opportunity to add some icing to the cake.
An outstanding save by Miranda Templeman, who's come off the bench. Sometimes as a goalkeeper it's hard to come off the bench and impact the game, and that was an outstanding save.
Furukawa makes some space. Fired on target, but right down the throat of Templeman. Chidara sending it up to Houghton. Archdeacon has Yasevsky, a fellow substitute, making the run. That's where the ball is sent. It was well weighted as well. And Michaela Schwarzer getting across and sending it behind for a corner.
Outstanding ball by Priya Archdeacon in between the fullback and the centre-back for Renee Jasevsky to run onto. And I think in their analysis during the week, that's probably something they'll probably discuss that they could have done far more of in this second half, because they've got the pace, they've got the ability, and as you said, 16 points from 8 games. They're right up there on the competition, and they're doing really well.
Chance to grab a late goal for Alamein. They'll get a second attempt at it as Lasky's first corner is shouldered behind by Furukawa. This one's got a bit more height. It's a couple of heads. Well, the weather gods have saved the most brutal weather for the final couple of minutes. Lasky sends it inside. Cleared away by Alana Byrne. South Melbourne edging closer towards securing back-to-back clean sheets as well.
Just as the clock's winding down towards the end of the game, I just want to shout out to Olivia Cowan. Hopefully she's all right, and hope she's been well looked after. And to her family to be watching, it's pretty tough. So to her and her family, good luck, and hopefully, fingers crossed, everything's as good as it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Passing our best wishes to Olivia Cowan. As Miranda Templeman there was just put under a little bit of pressure and forced to cough up the corner. So perhaps a final chance for a fourth goal for South Melbourne. TJ Vlanich delivering the corner. Templeman comes with the double fister. Left one of her teammates worse for wear as a result. And seemingly out of nowhere, spot fires in this game, threatening to blow up. I think Alana Byrne and Miranda Templeman exchanging words. Seemingly very little which sparked that one, but Templeman's name will be taken, as will, I believe, Alana Burns in the aftermath of that. And that'll be the final action of the game as well. So full time at Lakeside Stadium. It's South Melbourne who take the points. A commanding 3-0 display. The goals first coming from Raquel Durales just before half-time. Michaela Schmelzer doubling the lead in the second half before Nikki Furukawa sealed the points with the third. So it's back-to-back wins at Lakeside for South Melbourne as they make their way up the Senol NPLW Victoria ladder. For Alamein, second defeat in 3 games, a tough task coming to Lakeside and taking on this South Melbourne team, but they've still got plenty to build on as they head towards the coming months of the NPLW Victoria season. Sven Samuel.
Listen, I think it was a just result for the opportunity South Melbourne created. Again, they've got a wonderful squad. 2 good wins against great opposition in these past 2 games. Wednesday and again today. We'll hopefully have them chock full of confidence. Looking forward to some big games. And listen, Coach John at Alamein, as you said, 2 losses of the past 3. He's going to have to do a little bit of rebuilding and and what I mean by rebuilding their self-belief, their self-confidence, because when you're a team that's been going well and you lose a couple of games quickly, you have a little bit of self-doubt and you need to quash that as soon as you can. But well done to South Melbourne, and thanks very much for the call today, Oscar.
Plenty of NPLW Victoria action still to come your way in the coming weeks, of course. Tonight's big game as well, but from Lakeside this afternoon, that's all the time that we have. Full-time score, South Melbourne 3, Alamein 0.